Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mythic Banter. And as always, I am joined by the wonderful, if not very pissed off today, Rurikon. How you doing, sir?
Why am I pissed off? Oh yeah, because of Windows. Yeah, I am pissed off.
Bro, I joined Rurikon on call, and the first thing he did was go, "If this man, what the?" And they just very.
Bro, Windows is a piece of garbage for anyone that has an unconventional audio. What? What's wrong? Did you break something?
I'm not picking up your voice. I just realized.
That's on you, brother.
But how am I not picking up your voice? What the hell?
That's on you, brother. Because you're listening to me on Discord. See, it said the shoe's on the other foot now, huh, motherfucker? Yeah. Oh no, Windows fucked with my audio. Uh-oh, who could have seen this coming?
But I'm not the one getting... Okay, speak again? Speak again?
Testing.
There we go.
Check,
okay,
1, 2.
Okay, we're good. I'm just going to keep all of this in, by the way. You guys will just watch us fix this.
I'm just saying, okay, it's just funny that you were making fun of me just now. I was like, oh man, must suck having all these audio problems because of a Windows update. It does, doesn't it?
To be fair, I fixed mine in about 2 seconds. You took like a good 10 minutes to fix yours. Plus, and I would just like to say, I did not get angry. I just chilled out. But it is also because I was making videos when I should have been getting ready for the podcast. I apologize, guys.
Yeah, it's like, listen, the only reason it took me that long to fix it is because you were editing videos. So I'm like, well, might as well do something because it was working. I could have fixed it like that for the podcast, but yeah, I wanted to really get to the nitty gritty. But yeah, basically, guys, the point is, if you have anything that is different from a standard audio configuration on Windows, every single Windows update, and I do mean every single one, will mess with your audio for whatever reason, for completely random reasons. It just messes with it. It's just completely random.
But it's not just Windows updates. So here's the thing. I have a Wavelink, right? And the Wavelink creates all of these different sound channels that you can push stuff through.
Yeah.
Every single time the Wavelink updates, it breaks all of my audio sources on OBS. Every single time OBS updates, it breaks all of my audio sources on OBS. So I am consistently having to go back in and go, okay, this is the, just remember the bloody bullshit. It's the same as it has been all the time. It is so annoying. But, you know, it is for one of the greatest jobs in the history of the world. And unlike the streamer Snowcone, who isn't actually a topic today, but I will just mention it in passing, that complained that being a content creator is so hard because $10,000 a month from Twitch is just not enough money, and she's losing money as a result of this. And guess what, Rurikon? I just want you to hear this. The reason she's losing money is because, and her audience just doesn't understand the struggles, she has to spend $5,000 a month on travel. As a content creator, that's apparently a normal expense for a content creator is $5,000.
Oh no! I have to travel, guys. I have to go to places, got people to see, got things to do.
I just don't understand.
It's like, I swear to God, dude, there are so many content creators out there that like made it big, and now they're like the biggest fucking like degenerates that they're just like, you don't understand the struggle. I struggle so hard. It's just always hilarious to me whenever I see some of these people. I'm like, brother, shut the fuck up, bro. You have no idea the problems that your audience is dealing with on a daily basis, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Like, this doesn't even cross your mind. Like, somebody in your audience is going to, like, the grocery shopping or something, struggling like hell, and then they come back to you going like, guys, can I get some primes? I need some primes. I only made $10,000 this month.
Oh,
it's like,
man.
Shut the fuck up, bro. Ain't nobody want to hear that shit.
It really is just the most, like, dude, you can't help but just laugh at that stuff, right? Like, $5,000 a month, you don't have, like, guys, so it says $5,000 a month for travel, and then it's like $500 a month for streaming setup. And it's like, dude, are you renting your stream setup? What are you talking about?
$500 a month for the stream setup?
Yeah, for like, what are you renting it? Like, what do you mean the stream setup? Once you bought it, it's yours.
Okay, listen, guys. Mythic Banter will now be accepting donations. That'll be $2,000 a month for our streaming equipment because obviously ours is more expensive. Okay, because we're putting on a quality show, so therefore our shit's more expensive. That's $1,000 for Akko, $1,000 for me. Sounds good.
Let's go.
All right?
Hey, if you guys want to become super chat or super members of the chat, you can.
I can't believe you're actually going to shill for YouTube memberships.
Hey, brother, I'm going to shill for the YouTube memberships because I have to edit this shit every single Friday. It's a lot of work. And the chat continues to demand chapters. I don't think you guys understand how much work it is to add chapters to a bloody podcast. So, I am going to show for that membership.
That actually is work.
It's a lot of work.
That actually is work. People don't know, but that is a struggle.
I have those chapters because you guys demand it. So all I ask is, hey, if you have $5 hanging around, just throw it at us. You get 24-hour early access on the podcast. You get to watch it 24 hours before everyone else. So,
so let me tell you. Let me tell you about something real interesting that happened since we're talking about content creation. Something really interesting that happened this week. So YouTube decided to go ahead and run a little experiment.
Oh, yeah?
Not on all channels, only on some channels. And not even like big channels or anything like that. It's just like randomly. Okay. And my channel happened to get picked for that little experiment.
What was the experiment?
So what was the experiment like? So you know how on YouTube your users, they can have like a handle of their choosing?
Yeah.
So they have like a YouTube username, and then they have the handle that they choose to be recognized by.
Yeah.
And if you have regulars, you know what their handle is because they're on your chat all the time. So you know who they are. Now imagine if all of a sudden their handles aren't there anymore and all you can see is their actual usernames. That was my experience for like 3 or 4 streams this week. And it was miserable because I have a lot of regulars and I'm just like, I don't know who you are anymore because all I can see is your username. And everybody's like super confused. Yeah, that completely threw my streams for a loop for a while there. But people would be saying, oh, I'm actually such and such. And I was like, okay, let me take a mental note of your new name. Yeah. But luckily YouTube was like, well, maybe that was not the best idea. So they reverted that back. Thank God.
I don't know why they would think that's a good idea to begin with. Like, what genius at YouTube goes, hey, let's screw with all communities on YouTube. Let's just have fun with this.
Yeah, it's like randomly, right?
Yeah.
I was actually inferring who some people were by their behavior. So like the things that they would usually do in chat. And I'd be like, okay, I know who you are. Yeah. I can tell.
Every streamer has those chatters that you just...
Exactly.
You know how they'll respond
they
to every single thing, and you go, oh, I know who you are.
I know who you are. But then they did something else, and this was just yesterday. Yesterday, they added this new feature, which I thought was funny. I was streaming, and all of a sudden, I see somebody's name, and they have like a crown next to them. They have like this purple crown. And it's funny because the first time it happened, since there was this one person in chat, shout out Dylan J, he was just like, talking a lot at the beginning of the stream. And so he had all 3 crowns to himself. So he had Dylan J1, Dylan J2, and Dylan J3 had all the 3 crowns.
What's the crown? Like top chatters.
What is this? What are these crowns? And then I go to the crowns and I start reading it and it says... something about an EXP system. So the more you chat, the more. And I immediately said, before I went into details, I bet you that YouTube will give higher priority to people who donate, who super chat.
Oh, yeah.
It's not really about chat engagement. It's about, I guarantee. So then I went and I actually read details. And I'm like, yeah, it says here that people who super chat, they also do it. And so instantly somebody in my chat goes, okay, I'm going to test it. Boom, $10. They instantly jumped to the top of the list. And I was like, bro, YouTube, you're so blatant. You're just so blatant to just want people to super chat.
Well, yeah, for YouTube, super chats is free money, right? It's because they don't have to do anything and they're getting paid for basically nothing happening. if YouTube wants to actually make money, literally just remove ads for members. Dude, so many people would become members. So many people would sign up to memberships because I don't have to watch ads on your show. And if you've seen, my man, the other day I made the mistake of clicking on manage ads. You know, that little button where you can see the ads on a podcast? Holy crap. I was like, wait,
No, it's
who's watching? It's potential places,
ad slots.
Right?
Yeah, it's potential placements. YouTube doesn't actually put ads on all of those. But yeah, it's pretty fucking gnarly. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
Usually, as you move closer to December, those slots start to populate fast. And you're like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you can't watch this. This is unwatchable. But it's like every 2 minutes, there's an ad slot.
But here's the problem. If you don't put the ads on automatic, you're already getting YouTube will de-rank your videos, and unless you're like a massive content creator, you straight up can't afford to do that. It's terrible. And you remember that I think I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous podcast or not, but I had mentioned that YouTube was eventually going to force people to put automatic mid-roll ads on.
Yeah,
streams.
You told me this. Yeah,
I already told you this.
Okay, yeah, you tasted it and you saw. Oh yeah, 100%.
That time has already come.
Yeah, so, no, like, dude, I think the thing for me is we have the membership for those of you that want to become members, right? We don't hide anything behind membership. There's no extra content. Yeah. You get 24-hour early access. But it is mainly just to support us, right? To help us put
What
this
if we
together.
gave them Echelon feet pics? You ever thought about that?
Dude, they would pay me not to upload feed pics.
Exactly.
Like that would be the payment. Like sub now so that I don't start uploading feed pics.
So it's like if you go into the membership, it actually doesn't show your feed pics.
Yeah, otherwise you get feed pics. Pretty much, right? But okay, so on to the first. We have to do polling, right? We had a poll last week, as we have every single week. So guys, please get voting on that poll. The poll for last week was not the best because most of the stories last week was basically not really poll stuff that we could ask. But we asked, do you think Ethan Klein's lawsuit is just? Which I still think was an interesting poll to get to. 287 of you agreed and absolutely did vote. 77% of you said yes, you do think that it's a just lawsuit. 5% said no, and 18% said show results. What I would like to ask is, why would you think that it isn't a just lawsuit? You know, I did myself the favor of watching a lawyer, one of the top YouTube lawyers, speak on this, go through Ethan's entire video, watch how he explains Ethan's situation. And in every single scenario, Ethan is so in the right on what he's suing them for, and the fact that they were outright trying to steal content, that I'm just not sure why anyone would vote no. It's not a just lawsuit. These three goals
simple. It was the fans of Denims and Frogan and who's the other one? Casey Tron. They all came in to try and screw with the poll. They were just like, oh, let's say that it's not fair. No, and in all honesty, I think that one of the things where you could consider that it's not fair, it's maybe because you're kind of concerned over what can happen, which I am. I am very much concerned because you know how it goes when stuff gets, you set a precedent. Yeah. Like I guarantee you right now that Dark Viper AU is just like, oh man, set that precedent, Ethan. I'm about to take all them bitches to court. I'm about to ruin some lives. Yeah. I'm ready.
But interestingly, when I watched this lawyer's thing, right, the lawyer actually made a very interesting claim. He said, if for example, they just watched, right? So in other words, even Casey Tron, who was baked out of her skull, who just sat there and watched the whole thing, even if just that, it would be almost impossible to argue copyright infringement, right? It would be almost impossible to argue that your content was stolen.
Just having your face down there without any commentary, that's hard to argue.
Yeah, because even if there is just commentary every 15 minutes or so, there's still commentary, right? And apparently proving copyright infringement is super hard. It's like genuinely very, very hard. So there's like a bunch of separate things where these girls did it so perfectly well that they literally played into every single rule for this sort of thing, right? For this sort of thing to happen. And
they fell so perfectly well in Ethan's trap, you mean?
Yeah. Like Ethan laid the trap so perfectly, and they just walked into every single thing you should not do for copyright infringement, right? Like if you're watching someone else's content, what you are not allowed to do, they did all of those things. So I do think I don't think, like this guy makes it very clear that the production of the content itself, it's not been limit tested, and I don't think Ethan's lawsuit is going to be the thing that limit tests it. We're going to have, Dark Viper is going to have to bring a case against some YouTuber that reacts to his content to set the proper precedent, right? For what is or is not considered copyrightable from a YouTube video perspective. Because, yeah, it's sort of...
It's like I said, that is my biggest fear with that lawsuit, is that we'll have ramifications. And the thing is, I don't even do that much React content. I do it every now and then. I used to do way more back in the day, but it's like, I'm just concerned that the precedent could eventually screw people over, and it is a type of content that I do like doing from time to time.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping there will be no repercussions there.
But effectively, if you watch, like this was made very clearly, if you watch content and then you have actual conforming, so you are conforming it, you're talking about it, you're talking and explaining things, you're making it more entertaining, but whatever the case might be.
And at the same time, you also need to put in a good faith effort not to replace the original work. So at least go like, hey, by the way, shout out to the guy who made this video, blah, 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 blah. Here's a link. Make sure to check it out. Give it some watch time, which is stuff that I always do to begin with. So
but all of that would make it impossible. Like under existing copyright law, you would not be able to get sued for copyright under those, because you are transforming the video, right? You're not just sitting there watching and not doing anything, and you're not trying to steal the work from the original. You're adding to it. So yeah, there's that. It was very, very interesting. But yeah, just so that you guys know, the 5% that might have said no, I don't think that this is good. Just so that you know, right? From a legal perspective, this needs to happen, because there are plenty of content creators out there who do just react to stuff, and basically the whole reaction is just them going, ooh. Oh.
It's like those TikTok videos where they're just like laughing the whole time. Like it's just their face laughing at something else that's happening. They're adding absolutely nothing.
You remember the Sniper Wolf era? Like a few months ago, like actually maybe like a year or something ago.
Isn't she still doing that?
But there was an era where everyone was crapping on her for doing it. I remember when she doxed this one guy and then started crying about the doxing.
She went to his house, bro. Yeah. She went outside his house and live streamed outside his house.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
100%, right? But you remember that.
I do. Jax Films or whatever his name was.
Yeah, and then it actually was revealed, like her TikToks isn't even her watching the TikTok. They recorded like basically 5 or 6 different types of reactions. And then they'll just slap that reaction onto the TikTok, whatever TikTok it is.
Of course.
And then
I think that makes perfect sense. You just optimize the whole thing.
Yeah, so you don't even have to watch the TikToks.
You remember when the YouTube account, the official YouTube account went like, oh, Sniper Wolf, tell us how you get inspired. But yeah, so somebody selects these videos for me, and then I put my dumb face on them and just go like, ha, that's so funny.
Well, she doesn't even do it. She has an editor most likely that just does it. And then, her reactions is quite literally, there'll be a cow that falls down a hill, and she'll just literally go, oh no, it's the cow falling down the hill.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh, you're narrating the video.
Look at it. Yeah.
And the only reason she's getting views is because she's hot. That's it, right? That's literally the only reason. There's no other reason for it, because she's not funny. She's not interesting. She's certainly not intelligent. She's just hot or cute, rather. I wouldn't even call her hot. But anyways, that's it. That's the lawsuit. Let's talk about the real stuff that's going on in the gaming industry. And ladies and gentlemen,
damn, dude,
I would say the vast majority of the show.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the show is going to be just, Microsoft just, like we knew that there were going to be more layoffs in this year. Because last year we already saw about 20% of the entire games industry just get deleted. Well, Microsoft just came out and said, hold my beer. Microsoft is they're in the process of firing 9,000 employees.
Now, listen, first of all, my apologies for everyone that is affected by this, but I have to do the meme. It's over 9,000! Oh my God, dude. It's fucking disgusting, though. Like, seriously, 9,000. Now, it is important to say this is not just on the Xbox side of things. This is the entirety of Microsoft is getting affected by this. And there are a lot of repercussions for what is going down. Do carry on, sir.
You have insane stuff that's coming out of this, right? You have games that's getting canceled, and I'm sure we'll talk about those a little bit more. You have entire studios like Blizzard is getting hammered by this. Bethesda is getting hammered by this. ZeniMax is getting hammered by this. You have entire studios closing down. Like all of their people are getting fired. Microsoft is cleaning house. Now, ordinarily, and as you guys know, my stance on this is that layoffs are not always bad all the time, right? I do think that there are people in the games industry that don't belong there. I do think that there are games developers who should maybe go into political activism rather than being games developers. But there is something uniquely cruel about why Microsoft is laying off all of these developers when immediately following this, it was revealed that Microsoft has applied for over 6,000 H-1B1 visas, mainly from India, for workers in, drumroll please.
Wait, I didn't know that. What? They've applied for visa? Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. For people from India.
Oh my God.
In AI.
Oh God.
You see, that's the big story here, is that all of these developers are getting fired because Microsoft is making space for more AI developers. Microsoft is going all in on the AI development side of things because it believes...
It doesn't surprise me, though. It doesn't surprise me at all.
No, but I don't think it surprises anyone at this point because the whole world is gung-ho on AI. But I think that sort of leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. Like, I've sort of changed my position on the whole laying off of developers. Insofar as, I understand that it's wrong to be gleeful about it, but it's oftentimes very, very hard not to be gleeful.
You know what?
Right? When
I'm proud of you, Akalon. Good job.
Thank you, bro. It's hard not to be, right? Because I get so angry at some of these developers, but that still isn't an excuse to celebrate their suffering or to celebrate their dismissal from jobs. So I do apologize sincerely about that and the stuff that I've said in the past. But it's extra evil when you realize that over 9,000 developers are losing their jobs to make space for AI developers. Because that's where they think the future lies. And look, I have no doubt that a lot of the 9,000 developers that have been fired, like, for example, let's talk about the first game that's been canceled, Perfect Dark, right? Yeah. Perfect Dark gets canceled. We've only ever seen one cinematic of this game. We haven't seen really gameplay or anything like that.
We've seen like the latest trailer had in-engine footage, the one that they had shown. It had in-engine footage. So it's not gameplay, but it's not CGI. It was, everything is CGI because everything's computer generated imagery, but you guys get the point. It's not pre-rendered. It's not a pre-rendered cutscene. It was actually in engine. At least I believe that's what was said during that presentation. And there was also another trailer, and that one I think was full on CGI. But keep going.
But I mean, there wasn't a gameplay trailer. There wasn't like a big celebration of what the gameplay elements of the game is going to be. We sort of just had that, but it was, and this should be mentioned, it was Microsoft's first quadruple A game, because this studio,
it was a quadruple A game.
The studio that made this was founded by Microsoft as a quadruple A studio. They were going to make quadruple A games. Like, that was the whole point behind the studio. And I think,
don't make me laugh. I'm gonna paint it wrong if you keep making it.
I recognize that it's I recognize that it's funny, but remember, and I think this should also just be mentioned, there was a legitimate time, right, when the industry genuinely thought, and we're gonna get to that as well, because there's so much going wrong in the gaming industry at the moment, and so many gaming companies just clearly on the wrong side of things. But there was this period of time where the games industry genuinely thought that because sales were sort of tapering off, more money would just mean more sales. So if we just start spending more, and this sort of varies, someone made the argument the other day, it's very much an investor's mindset, right? Because in investing, when you spend more money, you make more money. I think you said this. When you spend more money, you make more money, right?
No, I don't think I said that, but that is the investor's mentality.
Yeah,
because like you do an investment, and back in the day, like we used to be able to actually do these things. Nowadays, with at least in Portugal, with the economy the way that it is, it's a piece of garbage. But back in the day, there was a time where you could get like a 5% return on and this is just like a flat. You put this in this account in the bank, and you just get 5% back over the course of like a year or something. Yeah. And that was like really good, because it's like, oh, the more money you put in there, the more money you get back. And investors are used to this type of stuff. Now, usually they don't do the 5% thing. That's like for poor people like you and me, right? We get the 5% interest.
Yeah.
The peasants get now the investors, they go like, no, I want to like 3x my investment, right? And in that situation, if they're able to 3x their shit, the more money they put into it, the more money comes out. But as it turns out, there's like an upper limit on that when it comes to gaming development, and people have been fucking around a whole lot, and now they're kind of like finding out.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And I think so. When you look at that investor's mindset, from their perspective, because you mainly have business people running these studios, right? Their thinking is, if you made, let's say, $1 billion spending $500 million, then you'll make $2 billion spending $1 billion. You know, and so the thinking is, if we just keep increasing the price, and so this is where this quadruple A sort of mentality started to come from. The idea was that we've done the AAA stuff. And I think the other thing there was also just the case that indie was starting to catch up, right? You were starting to see more and more AA and indie companies coming out with better and better games. And they were sort of going, well, if we just throw more money at it, we turn into quadruple
just keep
A.
Throwing money.
Yeah, we'll just increase the gap to where these indie companies just can't compete. Of course, technology completely cut that. Because now you have Clair Obscure Expedition 33 that is, by every account, if you spoke to anyone and you just showed them the game and asked them, do you think this was made by a big studio or a small studio? The answer would be, oh, probably a standard 350-man studio, right? Like, I can't see why it wouldn't be, except it wasn't, right? It was 30 people that made this phenomenal game. And so the Perfect Dark guys getting their studio canceled, I think, just speaks to Microsoft maybe turning a corner and realizing that, okay, we spent an obscene amount of money on this, and it did not pan out. This game isn't going to sell. And you have to think that Phil Spencer must be thinking about that. Like, in my video covering this, I just went through their most recent releases. I just looked at their most recent releases. And
so it's Doom Dark Ages at least, and then there's Avowed that I can remember. What else?
Let's just quickly find my list here.
I mean, it was definitely just the last two ones were those two. It's Avowed and Doom Dark Ages. I guess you can also throw Oblivion in there because technically, even though it's Bethesda, it is a Microsoft thing. Although I don't know if it was a Microsoft studio that made it. Who is the studio that remastered
it's
that?
an extra. It's a small, well, not a small studio, but it is a third-party studio that made the game.
It's not Microsoft. Yeah, but they're still publishing it, so they're still getting all the money and shit.
Yeah. So you had, for example, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, completely flopped. Starfield Shattered Space, completely flopped. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, while it still did phenomenally well, and a lot of games would like to do that well, the game is in terminal decline. Like if you go to the Steam charts for Call of Duty, it does not look good. Even in its most recent Battlefield or Battle Passes, it's getting no new players. It's just continuously diving down.
And by the way,
lower and lower.
Isn't the latest Call of Duty one of those games where they would just went like, hey, by the way, what if we just literally put AI emblems in this bitch?
Yeah, I if I'm not mistaken, there was something like that.
They put a bunch of just straight up AI slop into that game. They're just, hey, let's just see if people can tell. Oh no, people could tell. Oops.
I mean, you can tell Call of Duty and Activision is worried about Call of Duty because of the sort of now the Beavis and Butthead collaborations, the Seth Rogen collaborations. They're desperately trying to figure out how do we get new players back into this game, right? Because we're losing players consistently. We're not getting new players. Yeah.
How out of touch do you have to be like, oh, we need to get new players? Okay, wheel out Seth Rogen. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Seth Rogen would be to like try to get players of my age bracket. You're shooting for that good old 40-year-old age? Like, what the fuck are you doing, bro?
Well, think about it this way. You have a bunch of developers that have no experience on what gamers actually care about, having to make these decisions. Because, well, the people who are telling them to make these decisions are not people who make video games, right? They don't care. Yep. They're just thinking, well, Beavis and Butthead was good. Yeah, when you were young,
Beavis and Butthead was good. What, like in the early 90s or late 80s? Like, what the fuck? Yeah,
I'm not even old enough to really have enjoyed Beavis and Butthead. Like, you know,
same.
It was. I think it was 9 or 10 when Beavis and Butthead was a thing. So it's just sort of like, why are you doing Beavis and Butthead? Like, holy shit! But okay, Microsoft Flight Simulator completely failed. Yeah. There might actually be people watching this that don't even know what it is. All right.
Yeah, like I start doing the Beavis like, and then there's the Butthead, which is like.
Yeah,
that's how bro laughed.
Okay, but then you have Microsoft Flight Simulator completely bombed, Avowed completely bombed, and
Flight Simulator didn't bomb, as far as I'm aware, at least
on Steam it did. Right, on Steam it had something like 2,000 players at peak, like at launch. So, but to be fair, I'm not entirely sure if Microsoft Flight Simulator needs to make a lot of money, because if I'm not mistaken, it's actually designed for like actual flight schools and stuff. Like it's part of, I think, some contract or something.
It's not a part of a contract, but I mean, it is like as realistically, it wants to be as realistic as possible in terms of how to fly planes and stuff. So I don't know that it needs to make as much money as other games, but it also likely has partnerships with Google and shit, because I think that they use like Google Maps and all of that like 3D imaging technology to actually generate the maps in the game. And it also strongly utilizes their cloud technology, because like you have to be online to play that game, so that because otherwise the amount of information that you would have to download, because you can't actually fly all over the world, and it downloads information like high res, all of that shit. Yeah. So it's also kind of like a whatchamacallit, it's like a tech showpiece
That's
tech
sort of
demo. Not a tech demo, but like a big tech showpiece for Microsoft cloud technology and their integration with Google and all of this other bullshit. Yeah.
My
so
thinking,
there's more to it than just selling a video game.
Yeah. My thinking was that yes, it bombed, and yes, it probably didn't make its money back, but it's probably not their sort of goal with it anyways. It's more to invent and test new technologies for whatever, future things that they might want to do. So, but it is still losing money, right? You're still releasing a game that isn't making any money. Avowed completely bombed. Indiana Jones completely bombed, which is actually interesting because most people
Jones
who played
didn't
it
really
love it.
How did Indiana Jones bomb?
Look at the Steam charts, right? Because I'm not including Game Pass numbers here because one, we don't know what games do on Game Pass. Like, we have no idea, right? And also, if a game is good, and this we've seen play out every single time, it will sell well on Steam. Like, it always sells well on Steam if the game is good and people like it. So I don't understand what went wrong with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, because it seemingly is good,
but are you
right? The people who played it said it was
Are you
fun.
just looking at concurrence?
No, I'm looking at what it did at the peak and then how far it fell. Right? So and Indiana Jones.
What was the peak for Indiana Jones?
Let me quickly search for it. Because I just have the list here of the games. I don't have the screenshots for
because like I don't think that peak concurrence is that important for Indiana Jones, really. I think it's fine if it has like lower peak concurrence. Like, I would imagine if it was able to break, like, let's say let's put it like this, before you reveal it, my like standard for the success of Indiana Jones would be somewhere close to 50,000 concurrents. I think that would be enough.
Okay.
Considering that it was on Game Pass as well. So what was the peak?
So all-time peak was 8,242. 24-hour peak, 679, and playing right now, 331.
Those of you that are just listening to the audio version, I just did the biggest surprise Pikachu face. It's like, what? 8,000? That's not a whole lot.
No. That's why I said it completely bombed, right? Age of Mythology
What's Stellar Blade doing, by the way, nowadays? How did Stellar Blade peak? Wasn't it like at 100K or something like that? The Stellar Blade's not multiplayer. Like, it doesn't even need that much, and it wasn't even a simultaneous release.
So Stellar Blade all-time peak was at 192,000. Right now, 20,000 people are playing it, and its 24-hour peak is 44,000. So it's doing well.
Jesus.
It's doing very well.
I can't wait until somebody comes in and says, well, that's because it's a Gunner game. If it wasn't a Gunner game, it wouldn't be that successful.
Well, to people who go and genuinely think that games can just be Gunner games and that somehow pulls it off into being decent, you need to explain the complete failure of First Descendant. That game came out. A lot of people were super hyped for it. Within 24 hours, people were like, yeah, never mind. Right? And all of their gooning stuff has not really been able to get people back in, because the gooning only really worked for like the first 2 seconds. And they're like, okay, now I want some actual gameplay. I want some actual stuff to play, right?
Some people need to go see a doctor or something about that. Fucking 2 seconds, bro. What the hell?
Bro, I mean, if you're playing video games to get off,
bro.
right? If you're playing video games to get off, you are beyond doubt. You are beyond doubt, right? But then you have Age of Mythology Retold. Not that they didn't do that well. Aura History Untold is actually a super fun game, but I don't expect it to get hundreds of thousands because it's very much like a Civilization type game. Towerborn was a bit smaller. And then you had the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster. While it launched really well, its drop-off was scary. And I think Microsoft was sort of hoping this was going to be another Skyrim situation, where it would come out and people would just, continuously play it.
You can't expect Oblivion to be a Skyrim situation. What the hell?
Well, there's a reason why they decided to remake that one, right? They were hoping that it could have the same sort of lasting effect as Skyrim did. It did not. It came and
by
went
the way,
very quickly.
If you're interested in that kind of game, my big recommendation would actually be Tainted Grail. Tainted Grail, hella good.
Yeah, a lot of people
Still
loved
need to
it,
get
right?
back to that.
But you look at Microsoft's games that they've released, and these are the blockbusters, right? We're not even looking at something like South of Midnight, which bombed completely. We're not even looking at Starfield, Shattered Space, the expansion to Starfield, not Shattered Space, that didn't shatter records at all, right? It didn't even manage to break. Like, dude, looking at the Steam charts. When Shattered Space releases, so usually when an expansion releases, you'd want to see like a bump, right? Like a bunch of people coming back. There's no bump. Like the expansion.
There's no bump in the thing at all?
Barely noticeable. Because I remember looking at it and thinking, wait, where's the bump? I don't understand. Like, how is this game like so bad? And to be fair to them, it's not that it's a super bad game. It's just that it's not what it needs to be. If you're going to do a space game, I need to feel like this is a space game. And it never felt like a space game. It just felt like I'm loading simulator my way through various different scenarios.
It's like, listen, like I've always said, the cool thing about Starfield is the faction quests. That's the best part of that game. The main quest kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And it's basically Skyrim in space is what they've done. It's like, hey guys, we have Skyrim, but in space now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right. So Perfect Dark canceled. The studio closed down. And I think, this is sort of indicative. Layoffs were always going to happen at Blizzard. You have World of Warcraft, for example, that isn't doing all that well. Every single time I go and check in on the community.
You seen that latest cinematic?
Oh, bro. I was just looking at that and I just thought to myself, thank goodness I'm no longer playing WoW, man. Like, this is cringe. Oh, so bad. So bad.
That was so weird, dude. It's like, oh my God, man. Yeah, that was a weird ass cutscene.
WoW isn't doing well. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine who tried out the new Diablo season and I asked him, well, what's the new season like? And he said, well, it's the previous season with new shit. That's it.
It's like, I mean, what people usually say about Diablo 4 seasons, it's like, okay, guys, what color is Helltide this time around? Is it a yellow Helltide? Is it a blue Helltide? Oh, purple. Hey,
nice.
We got a good one.
Awesome. Blizzard just doesn't seem to know.
An epic Helltide.
Yeah. I think Blizzard just doesn't seem to know how to make good games. Whoever still works at Blizzard have completely lost the plot. They seem to not understand what ARPGs are supposed to be. And right now, the only thing saving Blizzard still is the fact that, what's it called? Path of Exile 2 is not out yet in full, right? The second Path of Exile 2 launches in full glory. Diablo's done, right? No one's going to play Diablo over...
Not really, because Path of Exile 2 is still too hardcore. So for casuals, Diablo 4 is still going to be the drug of choice. It's like, that's the thing. That's the thing that they're doing. Casual. They're grabbing that casual market and they're just like sticking with it, which means they're not going to be able to appeal to the hardcore players, really.
Well,
but they are going to be able to get like those casual dads.
You do have
like
serious problems with trying to appeal to the casual audience. The first is the casual audience does not spend money on games, not that much, anyways. And then all of the research shows that the casual audience follows the hardcore audience.
The hardcore, true.
They go where the hardcore goes. So when the hardcore all goes to Path of Exile 2, the casuals will just figure out how to play Path of Exile 2 in the most casual
learn
way.
Real fast.
Right? Yeah. Because they want to be where the action is, where everyone is playing. Anyways, so Perfect Dark. Can you tell us about Everwilds? I have no idea what Everwilds is.
I don't know much about Everwilds. It's from Rare. These are the same guys that are behind Sea of Thieves, it was their next big project. They were doing something called Everwilds, which is I'm assuming some game about nature or something like that. I haven't really looked too deeply into it because I wasn't super interested. But that game is just straight up canceled now, so it's gone.
Yeah, and then it appears.
And by the way, there was a senior staff who was working at Rare, who I think was also working on this game and working on Sea of Thieves, and he worked on Banjo-Kazooie. So like a 35-year veteran.
Wow,
he's gone.
Wow.
He's out.
Clean and out.
He's like, yeah, peace. Yeah, dude. Microsoft does not give a flying fuck about anyone right now.
Yeah, it should probably just be mentioned though. When companies like Microsoft lay people off, in order for something to legally count as a layoff, if it's the same in America, it's usually last in, first out, right? That's the rule. So you first have to get rid of the people that you got in lost, and then you start getting rid of everyone else. Now, I don't know, America's rules can be sometimes very different, where you can just lay off whoever you want. But what oftentimes happen is these studios will lay just lay a bunch of people off, and then behind the scenes they'll go and hire a bunch of people back, right? So they'll get back a lot of the people that they don't want to lose, offer them better deals or whatever. So there's a chance that could happen. The other thing that happened was the ZeniMax new MMO. So apparently ZeniMax was working on an MMO, and that got canceled as well.
I saw some description that said something like Destiny meets what was it? I don't know. It was something about Destiny 2 meets some other sci-fi franchise, and that was the game that they were working on.
Okay.
Not working on that anymore. That game's gone too. So alongside pretty much everything else, which kind of sucks because I feel like Elder Scrolls Online was actually pretty all right. It's not really my kind of MMO because of the fact that they're kind of like doing the free-to-play model, but not really. So they're selling you content piecemeal. And I always thought that their business model was kind of wonky, especially if you're trying to play the free-to-play or even the pay-to-play version, where it's like, oh, I bought the game and now I can play the game, because you can do that. What ends up happening is you can't really do crafting because your inventory space is so fucking limited that you straight up can't do crafting at all. But but other than that, the game seemed fun.
What I always loved about their sort of system, which I actually thought was probably one of the better systems out there, is for your subscription, you get access to all of the DLCs that they release, as well as, and this is really the big one, you get your credits in store of the value of your subscription.
Oh, so, it's definitely more fair than something like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14 or so on and so forth. Any standard subscription-based MMO.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, of all of the subscription models and free-to-play hybrid models you can come up with, it's probably the best one there is. Sadly, the one thing that does bring it down is the endless back. Without the endless back, the game sucks because they really did make looting a big part of the game. And that endless back just goes a long way to helping out with that. But okay, so ZeniMax's new MMO, sadly, we know nothing about this MMO. We don't really know because they never spoke about it. I don't even know until I heard they were canceled that they were working on a new MMO. I was like, wow.
We had heard about it. We had heard that they were doing something new, but there wasn't any confirmation of what it was. Whatever. So
I haven't heard that they were working on another game. So but then again, I don't really focus on ZeniMax or MMOs in general. So it could be just under my radar. But so Microsoft massive layoffs. Then I have another one here that I'm going to bring up because it's sort of part of it.
Is it still related to Microsoft? Because I don't want to leave the Microsoft topic just yet. Okay.
Yeah, it's still related to Microsoft, but you wrote your Warcraft Rumble bites the dust. Since it's part of Microsoft,
nothing of value was lost. True. And literally nothing of value was lost.
I agree with you, but can you explain it to the viewers? What the hell are you talking about? What happened?
So apparently, because the layoffs also hit Blizzard, this is a news article on IGN. Blizzard says Warcraft Rumble won't get any new content as Microsoft layoffs hit development team. An extremely hard decision. Oh no! But it's funny because it's not even just traditional video games that were affected. Even King. The makers of Candy Crush lost 10% of their team. So it's even on mobile projects, even those are suffering, which to me, you know what that feels like? It feels like nature, The gaming industry is healing.
Yeah.
It's healing.
I was
We are
going to
now
get this
seeing
tiny violin
mobile
out.
games burning. Yes. Fuck them. Fuck mobile gaming. Let's go. Burn it to the ground.
So you mentioned that you don't want to move on from the Microsoft story just yet.
Yeah. Because basically, my interpretation of this, and I want to see what you feel about this, but my interpretation of this is basically Microsoft is in a cost-cutting situation, despite the fact, by the way, that they had increased revenue to the tune of, where was it? I had that over here somewhere. Here we go. The 2024 revenue exceeded $245 billion, a 16% increase over its 2023 revenue. So despite the fact that they've given their shareholders fuckloads of money, that means absolutely fuck all. So and this almost goes out as a warning for anybody that is working in the industry right now, and you're like, oh man, if we can just make those quarterly profits, I'm gonna be golden. There's not gonna be a problem. No, that's not how it works. If you are working in this industry, even a 16% increase in revenue will still net you over 9,000 people fired, which is fucking insane. Now, the thing here is Microsoft is cutting costs massively. Now, you've also mentioned that they're apparently bringing in a bunch of people from India to work on AI, which that was something I wasn't even aware of at all. I haven't even seen that article at all, but so they're replacing people with AI specialists. And on top of it, the cherry on top of the cake, this is my prediction, Game Pass is going to increase its price. That's the next move. That's the next move. They're increasing Game Pass price.
I would not be surprised if they were to do that. I think that would be a mistake though. But then again, this industry
the next
seems
logical move.
The second there's a choice that has like very large warning signs, danger, very bad decisions ahead. It's like the industry goes,
what does this red button do?
Let's go check it out, boys. Like what's the worst that could happen?
It's the only path forward, clearly. It's the only path forward. The one that has big danger warnings on it, it's the only way.
I could definitely see them taking normal Game Pass. Like Game Pass Ultimate, I feel like is already well overpriced. It's $20 and you don't get that much extra from it. Game Pass Normal, that's 10 buckaroos, right? That's actually quite dirt cheap.
That's the one that's raising. They're going to raise that one to like 13 like it's gonna go to 14. 15.
And I have to be honest, in this instance, I kind of think it's still worth. If they were to go to like $20, now we're no longer talking worth. Right, because I can buy an indie game for $20, and I'll probably get a month's worth of playtime out of that indie game. So I feel like you're just, they should be very careful with how much they raise the price. But they're almost definitely going to raise the price. The developers that's being fired, I think here's what people need to understand when it comes to corporations. It doesn't matter how much profits they make. It doesn't matter whether the profits are up or down. They're looking at every single individual studio and asking themselves, and to some extent, I kind of agree with them in doing this, right? They're looking at studios and going, right, we don't care that we made 16% increased profits. What did you do? Like, how much money did you as a studio? Because remember, for these guys, it's just about the money that you added to the company. Like, whether you had a good time doing it, that doesn't matter. Are you the life of the party and makes everyone else's life better coming to work every day? They don't care. If you brought cupcakes every single Friday morning, right, for everyone at work, they don't care. How much money did you add to the company?
But what if those cupcakes were made by Girl Scouts?
Still, how much money did you make for the company? And that's all they care about, right?
So cold, but it's Girl Scouts cupcakes.
Well,
Come on now,
it is what it
that's got to be worth more.
It is what it is. That's all companies care about, and to some extent, I kind of appreciate that, right? I kind of respect that. And the only reason for it is I know exactly what to expect from a company that only cares about making money. Because I know that every decision they make, even if they're trying to make it sound like they're doing it for me, I know for a fact it has nothing to do with me. They just care about the money that they make. That's why I'm sort of against companies trying to play social engineering and trying to do good things in the world, because I feel like it crosses streams. You're a company, just focus on making money, because I can trust that, right? I can trust that you're a scumbag, greedy asshole, and I need to watch out, because you'll stab me in the back whenever you want. So these obviously Microsoft looked at all of their studios and they decided to get rid of the studios that are underperforming or the studios that they deem to be bloated in some way, shape, or form. And right now, Microsoft is all in on the AI game. This isn't Phil Spencer because he's not part of the AI team. This is just Microsoft, the corporation. They believe that AI is the future. And so, yeah, they're all in on this. I think you kind of have to know how bad your AI is when you physically have to force your own employees to use your AI. Like, that's something that happened a few months ago. I don't know if you even remember, where Microsoft
They forced people to use like Teams and Copilot and like their whole software suite. Yeah.
Dude, if you have to force your own developers to use your product, that should tell you how shit your product actually is, right?
There's problems there, brother. Yeah. There's some problems.
But, it is what it is. There's nothing else we can do about it. We'll just have to see, because I do think you're going to see in the very near future, EA, probably Ubisoft, all of these companies follow suit, especially now, because if you can fire people as close to this deluge as possible, you're not the only one taking flack, right? You're not the only one being attacked. You're just part of everyone else currently being attacked, and it sort of makes it a lot easier. And you can sort of reference Microsoft's laying off as the thing that triggered it for you, and not necessarily signal to investors that, we're losing money or whatever. So that needs to be mentioned. I want to talk about, sort of moving on from the Microsoft stuff, Stop Killing Games.
Stop Killing Games has reached 1 million signatures, which was their original goal. Yep. But the interesting part is how they actually got there. As a matter of fact, it's not even 1 million. Right now, it's at 1.1. And if you are an EU citizen, you probably should check it out and potentially sign the petition as well. Mm-hmm. Because for those of you that aren't aware, maybe you're like new to the podcast or something, the Stop Killing Games initiative is something that was made by a guy called Ross. His channel is called Accursed Farms. And the point is that whenever certain video games reach end of life, like a video game that's going to be doing that here pretty soon is actually Anthem. Yeah. It's going to be reaching end of life in January 2026. The servers are going to be shut down. And at that point, that game is going to be rendered.
Oh, no.
What do you mean, oh, no? What? It is oh, no, bro. I liked Anthem, bro.
Are you still playing it?
No, I'm not. But that doesn't mean I didn't like it, and doesn't mean I didn't want the option to play it later. I mean, you can say the same thing about the game that originated this whole thing, which was The Crew. Are you playing The Crew? Yeah. So, but anyways, the point is, the argument that is being made is that video games should be preserved and be made playable after the game has run its course, particularly if it's a game that, it's mostly a single player experience, as was the case for The Crew. Yeah. And it would be very easy to just patch.
Just FYI, you could make Anthem a single player experience. You could just
play it solo. Yeah. But basically the idea is there should be like a reasonable effort to ensure that these games are still playable after they've been sunsetted by the companies that worked on them, whether that is through the means of the company providing you with a server so that you can host your own video game, which probably is not that hard. This is something that Palworld did, by the way. So it's like Palworld, which is also a game that is largely multiplayer. Most people play it in multiplayer. You can also play it solo, of course, but they just simply provided players with a server. Same thing that Enshrouded did. They provided players with a server. Should you want to engage in multiplayer with your friends, you can host a server.
Valheim allows you to get your own server.
To host
you can
server
even
as well.
Literally get your own server for that game, and it'll just run.
Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of video games that are already being considered when it comes to this, but naturally big AAA companies are not. So that's kind of like the purpose of the Stop Killing Games initiative is like, hey, these games should be playable after they've run their course because people bought these games and now they get fuck all.
Yeah.
And the game that started all this was The Crew from Ubisoft because they just shut that bitch down and they literally removed it from people's libraries, you know? Like, doesn't that just feel good for this digital future of ours? Where Ubisoft just literally went to your game library and just went like, "Bloop, I'll just take that one away." And you're just like, hey, wait, I paid for this. What do you mean you're just going to take it away?
But
just gonna, like, boop.
Just to be
they
clear,
literally removed access to. You can't even look at the main menu anymore, brother. It's
but as
gone.
you're standing in front of Ubisoft going, bro, what did you do? Why did you remove my game? They literally just come out the door and go, boop, on your nose, and then get back into the building because that's how little shit they give.
They give no fucks, zero fucks. So Ross made this initiative, and what happened was when Ross made the initiative, it was picking up steam, it was doing great, but then Pirate Software reacted to it, and you know, Pirate Software being absolutely massive, he reacted to it and he said, "This is a pile of shit. I fucking hate this. I'm going to tell people not to vote for this. You can eat my whole ass." That was some of the words being used. You know that? He actually said, "You can eat my whole ass." The whole thing. I was like, what the fuck? Tell me how you really feel about this. And what the fuck? And that pretty much stopped the initiative in its tracks because Pirate Software at the time was extremely influential. Now, the interesting thing about the Stop Killing Games situation is that since then, Pirate Software has actually had multiple hits on his credibility. He's been subject of multiple dramas. Everything started with the hardcore World of Warcraft situation where he kind of roached out. I still believe that in that situation, like the guy's saying, "Everybody run, it's a fucking, we're all gonna die." Like to me, that guy that was shot calling, that guy is the main responsible dude. But you know, Pirate Software could have just gone like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I panicked because somebody was fucking screaming on comms, bloody murder, like we're all gonna fucking die and run away." And guess what I did? I fucking roached the fuck out. But regardless of like all of that, that situation caused a lot of people to go over his past very, very scrupulously to the point where
the internet was having a real one. You know, the internet was doing what the internet does.
The internet pulled out all the stops, and there was like then something about him employing underage people to work for him and shit like that.
What?
There was like
what?
Oh yeah. Oh no, you don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes. I'm not going to go too in depth in this. So I'll just say allegedly because I didn't do too much research. But I remember at the time I was looking like there was a lot of shit that went down after the World of Warcraft situation. Now, it is also important to mention that I do feel that a large portion of it started reaching like that level where it's just like, okay, now we're just being fucking unhinged, which has gone down that road. But basically, you know, Ross didn't want it to get involved in any of this drama. He's like, oh, well, I guess it's going to fail. But then as it was reaching the end, Ross goes, you know what? I'm going to give it one last push. And Ross went ahead and he addressed everything that Pirate Software was saying about the initiative, everything Pirate Software got wrong. And because people were already poised against Pirate Software, basically what they did is like, you know what? No, I'm just going to sign this thing just to fucking spite him. Fuck that guy.
Like,
and it just goes to show you that people are so much more motivated for like vengeance and spiteful actions than actually doing good. So the negative energy behind people being against Pirate Software, I feel like, is one of the main reasons why this thing made it through the finish line, which is absolutely insane to think about. But yeah, that is something that happened.
I don't necessarily know if it's just
it's not just
stuff,
that,
right?
No.
Because I do think...
But I think it was a big part of it, absolutely.
100%. But I think another big part of it was absolutely... you had PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye. You had some of the big hitters of YouTube, you know, suddenly starting to cover this. And you could see, right, people finally realizing that this is a thing. if anything comes out of this that I would want, it's that companies stop trying to shoehorn multiplayer into games that could just be single-player games. Like, that would be the dream scenario for me, because there's so many games out there that get ruined because the company sees some live service angle on their bloody video game. When you go, man,
Angle is the right word.
This would have been a phenomenal single-player game. What's the right word?
No, I was saying that angle is the right word. Like, it's not actually a feature that they wanted to do. It's not actually something that they want to do. It's like, I see an angle where I can make some fucking money. Let's go.
I see this gap where I can shoehorn some live service bullshit into the game. And you're just like, man, it made it infinitely worse immediately as soon as you did that. So hopefully companies sort of take a longer, harder look at that and sort of start to be a lot more careful when they make these kinds of decisions.
You know what this reminded me of? This actually reminded me of another game that came out last year that I really, really enjoyed, which is Wayfinder. Because Wayfinder was being published by the fine folks over there at Warframe Digital Extremes, and then they just like said, you know what, we don't feel like doing this publishing thing anymore. Fuck all y'all. Good luck. And they were like, wait, but you have our servers. You guys developed our servers. Like, what do we do now? And they went and they converted the whole game to single player. And it took them literally 3 months to fix the whole fucking thing. That's how much it took them. They went from a full-on live service structure to a full-on single player with optional multiplayer structure in 3 months. So I don't want to hear it from all of these big studios. It's like, it's so hard. You don't understand. It's like, cry me a fucking river and then go fix your fucking game, okay? When you're done crying me a river, build a bridge and fucking get over it, bitch. Get to work. Get to work, or put the fries in the bag, bro. Figure it the fuck out. Oh shit! Look what I did. I painted myself. See, look at that shit. Fuck.
Hopefully it works out that way. As you guys know, I'm a little afraid when it comes to government stuff, and I recognize there's some commenters who said, "Bro, these things are supposed to be. You don't have endless space to add on these petitions, so you kind of have to be as succinct and short and sweet as possible, and it will get hashed out later." That scares the living shit out of me. Like, the whole we'll fix it later with government.
We'll fix it in post.
When it gets to fixing it later with government, I don't like it, right? Because I find ever seen the government
completely trustworthy. Why are you laughing? Is there something wrong with the South African government, brother? I find my Portuguese corrupt. And like, listen, you want to know why I find my Portuguese corruptment trustworthy? Because I can always trust them to be as corrupt as fucking possible. They're predictable.
The reason we started recording this a bit late is because I was stuck making a video about my government screwing up big time once again. That's why we were late.
They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. No, I don't believe you.
The one thing I can trust my government on is the fact that they will always... In 1998, they're warned, if you don't start building new power stations, in a decade, we will have load shedding. We'll have blackouts because we will simply not produce enough electricity for the government, for the country. Guess what my government does? They don't build new power stations.
They said, I don't believe you.
Yeah, they basically just said, well, thanks for letting us know.
My feelings don't care about your facts.
Yeah. And then in 2008, bam, load shedding happens, right? The country has no longer enough electricity. Then everyone's going, bro, you guys have to start building nuclear power stations right now. We need power stations. This is going to be a big problem. If this lasts until like 2014 when they finally start building the power stations, right? Because now they've waited enough time. Those power stations then take almost a decade to build. They're still not actually finished because they were built wrong. They literally built them with schematics, I believe, from Europe, but Europe uses a different kind of coal than what we use here in South Africa. And so the coal that we use in South Africa destroys... You guys stole our
schematics?
No, they literally just got it. They used a company from Europe to draw up the papers, the plans for the power station. The company from Europe.
This seems fucking sketchy, bro.
Oh, dude, so much money was stolen throughout this whole thing. Like, the budget for this thing was like 10 times more than what it was originally promised to be, because everyone had to get paid and, stolen money everywhere.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so
I'm sure that Portugal also didn't steal any riches from Africa like we did from Brazil. I'm 100% sure we never did that.
Dude, if you didn't steal the riches from Africa, we would have just pissed it away anyways. It doesn't matter. Because I live in a country where I can tell you we're not good at keeping what we have, So, yeah, but anyways, I just
My Portuguese ancestors would never steal or enslave. They would never do this.
Dude,
what do you mean?
Every Portuguese guy I know here in South Africa owns a fish and chip shop. Like, every single one. Like, every fish and chip shop is owned by some Portuguese dude.
That's a British thing, though. Why would Portuguese dudes be doing fish
in
and
South
chips?
Africa?
It's weird.
That's a Portuguese thing. Like, not necessarily even just fish and chips, but just they own a cafe. Every single Portuguese guy I know owns a cafe. Now, the cafes that we have here in South Africa is different to the cafes you guys know in Europe. A cafe here is what you call in England, I believe they call them off licenses, which is like a corner.
I have no idea what the fuck that is.
Think of it as like a shop that sells a bunch of general goods at an increased margin.
Like a gas station thing?
Without the gas station. So there's no gas station. It's just but then they always have these fryers in the back where they fry like
it's a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, sort of something like that, right? Again, not called 7-Eleven. We do have 7-Elevens here, but they're a different thing. But they're the same thing, but more fancy. These are always dirty as shit. Like, you can see the grease everywhere, right? Not greases in the country.
It adds flavor.
That is the base fish and chips you can buy, is from one of these greasy outlets where you sort of know you're on the verge of getting food poisoning. That's when you know the shit I'm going to get now is good.
You're on the verge, but not there yet, right?
Yeah. That's clean
the best
it
shit.
Just before it kills you. Like, then they'll get in there and quickly scrub it down and get it back to not clean,
it's like, okay,
but decent.
The toxicity levels are a little bit too high right now. We need to bump those down just a smidge. Not too much, though.
Yeah.
Don't clean it too much, but clean it a little bit so that it doesn't kill Akalon next time he comes around.
Everyone knows the base food you can buy from from doner kebabs or kebab shops to fish and chips isn't from places that look super clean. If a place looks super clean, you just know you're not getting the best food. You can taste the cleaning liquid on that food. You want the 5-day-old oil. That's the one you want, because that's where the good food is.
Yeah.
But okay, so
that's good shit.
I have distrust in the government. It is what it is. I'm really hoping that the stop killing games thing goes through and that the government takes a look at it. And as I said, for me, best case scenario is that companies start looking long and hard at this sort of constant push for live service and just make single player games.
It's so funny how naive I used to be, because when I got into World of Warcraft, I always had this idea that, like, if eventually they shut down the servers, they're going to let us play single player, right?
Right.
Young me was so dumb. Young me was so fucking stupid, bro. It was like, you're so dumb. If they shut that bitch down, you ain't never seeing shit. It's going to be like what happened with NetEase, right? NetEase was handling it in Asia, and Blizzard was like, you can download your character data. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, and then stuff it up your ass, because that's all it's good for.
Later,
you download your character data, stuff it up your ass. It's gone now, bitch.
Yeah.
Can't play that shit no more.
Yeah, always super fun. Speaking of what is super fun, we probably need to talk about 11-bit studios a little bit here.
Yeah, tell me about this one.
So, shorter story for you guys here today, but 11-bit studios, these are the guys behind games like Frostpunk, Andika, something like that. They also did The Alters, their newest game, really phenomenal game. I just finished it a few days ago. Truly phenomenal game.
Akalon's been addicted to that shit.
Oh yeah, no, I've been playing the living crap out of The Alters. They're a very interesting studio insofar as the games that they make always come with these incredibly heavy story elements, even if it's something like an RTS where, Frostpunk, super RTS, but super heavy story elements. And in the altars, it is a survival resource colony management game, but with a super heavy storytelling element to it. So they kind of love merging these almost elements that you wouldn't expect to go together. They love merging these together into something else. But effectively, what happened was some users over on the world's least angry platform, Blue Sky, and I say that in air quotes because Blue Sky was meant to combat the toxicity of the right. Instead, it has become the grand central of online hate. Like the amount of harassment campaigns.
I haven't been to Blue Sky in a hot minute.
Yeah, dude, Blue Sky is insane. Like every single time I go there, and what I love about Blue Sky is every single time I look at a thread on Blue Sky, someone will post something. Like even in this thread where they're sort of revealing, for those of you, let's just quickly the story. 11-Bit Studios is accused over on Blue Sky of using AI. And as you can imagine, Blue Sky users are having a real one because the studio, Indie, by the way, dared to use AI in some of its early development. But even on this thread, right, it starts with indie stuff and with 11-Bit Studios and they're sort of using AI. Then very quickly, you have the entire thread be people attacking other people for wasting electricity and destroying the earth because AI destroys the earth, but now other people are destroying the earth. And it just, every single thread on Blue Sky is just a bunch of people figuring out what's the next thing that I can say that makes me look like a better person than the person in front of me, right? Like the person that posted before me. It's always funny to watch Blue Sky have a real one. But anyway, so 11-Bit Studios then comes out after this massive meltdown. And kudos to them for not actually apologizing, but merely explaining themselves. They were just like, oi, boys, we used AI early on in development because, so the game has this base area where you basically have all of these different sort of blocks, right? Like containers, effectively, and different things that happen in these containers. But the background in these containers are kind of just stock, if it makes sense, right? The backgrounds aren't really interactive. You can't do much on the backgrounds. It's just to show you, like for example, the infirmary. It'll show you the infirmary beds and a desk, but all you can do is go lie on the infirmary bed. You can't do anything in the infirmary really, except for lie in the infirmary bed to treat your radiation wounds, stuff like that. So some of that early on in development was done with AI, just to help them sort of figure out what they want. And then later on, they went in and they sort of replaced it with actual art from their art teams. And they forgot
placeholder assets.
Yeah, it's like basically placeholder assets. But they forgot some of the placeholders in one specific instance. It's this tiny little blue screen, and there's like writing on the blue screen. And they used AI to just populate
AI
the
writing. Okay.
Yeah. And the prompt is still in there.
You could have just done Lorem Ipsum.
Well, yeah, they could have done that, right? But they effectively just did the AI thing, and they forgot to replace it, right? And then, of course, Blue Sky had a real one by just inventing all of the other AI that they used, even though they didn't. So saying that all of the icons are AI designed.
That's the problem, though, because when you find one thing in your game that is AI, like everything else is going to get pulled into question. Because I mean, if you use it's the same thing as when somebody lies, right? If you lied about this, what else have you lied about? It just becomes a never-ending chase after, okay, what else have you done wrong, right? Because if you're capable of doing this, like, you know, it's natural that people go that route.
Yeah,
but it kind of sucks.
100% true. I just think that people are fighting the wrong fight, guys. You're not going to stop AI. Like, that's the whole point of this entire coverage. I need people to understand this. No matter how hard you fight against it, you will not stop AI. There are simply no way that smaller indie studios and AA studios can compete against AAA without the use of AI. They need AI because AI can allow them to make better games without having to hire the same amount of people. And anyone that's in here going, pay your artists, they are paying their artists. But you're not talking about paying your artists here. It's you need to understand this. You're not demanding that these guys pay their artists. Their artists are getting paid extremely well. You're demanding.
I mean,
that this
that
studio,
part you don't know. You know they're getting paid. That's about it.
I've heard from some people that 11-bit studios are actually they're really good to the people that work for them. They're an actually really good studio to work for. So I sort of, at least according to what I've heard, right? They get paid really well. You're not demanding that they pay their artists. You're demanding that they hire more artists in order to do the work that AI could do. And at that point, what you need to understand is you very quickly go from demanding that an indie studio, right, pay their artists to demanding that an indie studio has to have the same amount of staff that a AAA studio has. This means that same indie studio, instead of being able to charge $40 for a game like The Altars, are forced to charge $70 because they now have a bloated workforce. Because you will not allow them to compete with these AAA studios. Because everyone keeps demanding that gameplay gets better, graphics get better, all of these things have to continuously get better. And these studios are trying to keep up. But if you want the better stuff, you also have to understand that they have to use whatever advantage they can get in order to get there. And for me personally,
especially in the indie space.
Yeah. For me personally, if they have to use AI, but they can design things like Clear Obscure Expedition 33 or The Altars, bro, use your AI because this is good shit. What I will be with you, and I will stand with you and fight with you on this, is when people start to use AI as a complete replacement for human creativity. Because we've seen what those games look like, and they don't look good. Anyways, do you have anything to add to this, or?
No, I pretty much agree. It's like, I think that using AI as a tool for helping you move forward is pretty much inevitable. I do feel like they should have been called out a little bit over the fact that, hey, there's AI art over here. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But now that they've explained, it's like, hey, listen, this was placeholder stuff, and we have proper artists working on all of the final art for our game. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Using it as placeholder to kind of like get inspiration, because it just helps, particularly because a lot of people are more visual. So like seeing things in place is much easier than just imagining them.
Yeah.
I think that having an AI do that, I think that's fine. Just for placeholder bullshit, that shouldn't make it into the final product, which if they had done their job properly, it wouldn't have made it. I think that's fine. And because they didn't do it properly, they get called out a little bit. I think that's fine too. Now, the problem is that, people then start witch hunting, and that's kind of like inevitable.
Should also mention another part of this is some people started noticing some of the subtitles for the movies that you could watch in the game, because there's like a cinema that you can watch movies with your altars on. Some of those also appear to be done by AI. They addressed that as well and said the movies was a last minute addition to the game. They weren't going to have the movies in the game to begin with. They were just going to have you click and it's movie time, and then you get done and movie's over. But then they sort of went to a third-party studio and said, hey, could you guys make us these movies?
Localize?
Yeah. Well, they just asked, it's a third-party studio that made these movies for them. And then once they got back, they put the movies in the game. So they did say to anyone that wants to claim the movies might be AI, they said, we had nothing to do with the design of the movies. So we don't know if AI may have been involved there. We just asked them to do it. But then just so that there would be subtitles on the movies, they quickly ran that through language models to get subtitles. But their actual localization teams are working on creating proper subtitles for the movies. So that's the whole story. I personally, again, feel like people are giving an indie studio a lot of flack for just using tools smartly. And especially with how bad localization companies have become, I'm sort of fine with AI just replacing that shit at this point. Because
No. You need proper localization. You do, because you do miss out on a lot of things. But you need localization that understands that people want to learn about reference, particularly when it comes to Japanese. We need localization that understands that, like, you should be teaching people about Japanese culture, not replacing some of these Japanese sayings with English, similar things.
But this is my point, right? Because of how bad it's gotten, it's probably worth them just being replaced, because right now, a lot of these localization companies are no longer doing the whole thing that you need localization for. They're just doing the whole, we'll translate it, and then we'll play God with your work, right? And we have localization people admitting that they just change the whole story. If they don't like it, they'll just change it.
And it's worth getting rid of those people, but that doesn't mean that there aren't localization teams that are doing good work.
No, there's probably localization teams that are doing a good job, but fundamentally,
there's plenty of them.
That doesn't negate the fact that there are a lot that isn't, right? The whole anime space is on fire at the moment because anime is basically getting killed by its localization people. And just the threat. I'm not saying AI can replace these people, because I don't think it can. Because localization, as you've said, is more than just translating stuff. But just the threat of being replaced by AI might get these localization companies to shape up, right? And start doing what they're supposed to be doing in the first place. Hopefully, right? Hopefully we can see that happen. But for small indie studios that genuinely just needs to translate some stuff, I feel like, hey, if you're going to need to do that, because these things cost money, guys. Like every single time you want someone to localize your game, that's not cheap, right? They're not doing that for free. You have to pay that. And if you're just a small indie studio, you don't have that money, right? It's not like it's just lying around. Now, luckily, 11-bit Studios is one of the larger indie studios out there, so they can afford to do this. But yeah, I feel like you guys need to chill out, right? People who are so against AI, you need to chill out. There are certain companies that we can absolutely go after. Like if you have a AAA studio like Ubisoft using AI for their nonsense, no, just get out of here. But if it's an indie studio and like a AA studio using AI, they have to compete somehow. Like they don't want to.
It's the only way.
Yeah, we can start talking when you have like Ubisoft charging $100 a game, but the whole game is made by AI. Then we can have conversations about this. Otherwise, leave the indie studios just a little bit. They call them out, of course. They always call them out. But don't just hound and attack them into demanding apologies and stuff. That's just unacceptable. Okay, so this is your story that you gave me. Video game spending goes down. Can you explain to us what is happening here? Because I have a lot to say on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, basically there were studies made in this case. I think it was data from Circana. No, it's Wall Street Journal. The spending on video games is dipped by close to 25% on the 18 to 24-year-old. This is an American study, so this is going to be for young Americans. But on the 18 to 24-year-old bracket, video games have dropped a lot. 25% even. And even on other brackets, they're also dropping a little bit. But video games themselves are dropping harder than other things like accessories and, other types of technology that you can get. Now, they don't really present a conclusion as to why. They just talk a little bit about, the current economic conditions, which is definitely one of the reasons. But the reality is, a lot of companies are reaching the finding out part of the fucking around with increasing of prices. This is my analysis on this. What has been happening? And we talk about this all the time on this podcast. Gabe Newell has always stated as like, listen, piracy, that's a service issue. And guess what? We're having a lot of fucking service issues right now in this industry. Y'all went and it's like, when was it that we got to the $70? Was it like 2-3 years ago or something like that? We got the $70?
If you ask the PlayStation fans, they'll be like 5 years ago already, right? But in the PC space, it's like 2 years or so. Mass adoption only really for the last year, right? Like we already had some games that were trying to get $70.
Like, for instance, to give people an idea, right? Elden Ring released at $60.
Yeah.
On PC.
Cyberpunk
Elden Ring released at
$60.
$60. Yeah, but Cyberpunk's way older than Elden Ring.
3 years,
but,
but still, not that long ago, we still had major blockbuster games launching in 60.
But so the point is, they've increased prices, and now they're doing it again, and they're going too fast, and people are like, well, on top of it, there's another thing, which is not only they're increasing prices, the video game DRM is getting more and more intrusive with things like de novo. And so people are going like, why the fuck am I paying money for this? Like, fuck that. I'm just going to go get it off of Pirate Bay.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you guys. You're making it harder for people to buy the video games than it is to pirate them.
Yeah.
You can push people so far, and then eventually people are going to push back. Now, that's not the only reason, because there's also obviously a lot of people are nowadays addicted to their cell phones more so than necessarily sitting in front of a computer.
Yeah.
Which, especially in the 18 to 24-year-olds, like, despite the fact that my kid has a Switch, most of his gaming nowadays is done on fucking websites. It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, he plays this blocks something IO website where it's like it's a Minecraft FPS that he plays with his friends or whatever. And this is all like through a browser and using touchscreen interface. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you, son. I tried hard to do better. The problem is that he's playing multiplayer games with his friends, right? That's the issue. So it's like it's bad influences that I can't control.
Yeah.
It's his friends. I have to get rid of them.
You get him some new friends.
Son, you need some new friends, okay? Your friends are ruining you. Need to put some better people in your life, son. This is not acceptable. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, younger people, they mostly game on like mobile devices and shit like that. And in those situations, most of those are done through like, free-to-play games, stuff like that. But the interesting thing is that even then, they still account for like people spending money on those games, right? So it also means that in general, people are not finding as much value in those games either, which is, again, a little bit of healing. But at the same time, yeah, I definitely think that it's all of these price increases. And hell, even consoles are increasing in price. How does it make sense that you're going to sell an Xbox Series X for more expensive than you sold it in like 2019, 6 years ago? That's not how it works.
No.
These things depreciate in value. They don't appreciate in value.
Yeah.
The fuck do you mean? So
it's an investment now, according to these guys, right? Like, you're investing in your future by bullshit.
Yes. It's so dumb. But yeah, those are like my conclusions that I can draw from, people spending less money.
I think one extra thing that I will say on this, because you've pretty much touched on everything that I wanted to sort of get out or get on top of. But one extra thing I'll say is this is also a direct result of gaming studios, what we spoke about earlier, seeing an angle to turn their game into a live service, making a worse version of the game, but thinking that they can prop it up by just selling a bunch of stuff to people, right? You take Diablo, for example.
SimCity was the perfect example of that. Diablo 4 is another one,
Diablo 4 is a great example of a game that so desperately wants to be a live service game that it's just made it worse. The thing that made Diablo 2 sort of like the golden era of Diablo was that it was actually a game made for single player that then just worked super well as like a quote unquote live service type game. Not because it was live service, but because people just continuously wanted to play it because it was so very good, right? And instead of just trying to do that with Diablo 4, the focus is consistently just on, well, get people to max level so that we can start getting them into this endless churn that allows them to spend money and buy stuff from our game, because that's how we make our money. And at some point, people just realize, wait, but it's not worth the money. Why am I paying this? And then especially you look at, last night started playing Palworld again. You look at that game, it launched not even for that much, it was like $30, right, at launch. And it has had how many free updates now? where you just get
I don't know.
all of these updates given to you for free because they made so much bloody money that they're just like, hey, thanks for the support, boys. Here's some free shit. And it just continues.
No Man's Sky is doing the same thing too. They're constantly updating their game.
Yeah.
The amount of content that people have gotten from No Man's Sky is absolutely insane.
Oh yeah, right. So clearly there is money to be made if you just make a good game. But of course, these indies, these AAA studios have become so greedy that they've effectively started shooting themselves in the foot. Now you have the opposite problem, right? The idea is because these companies are starting to run into financial issues because of bloating budgets that have just gone insane, and because the investor brain of spending more money equals more profits didn't work out, right? They're now falling into the classic bankruptcy trap, which is what a lot of companies that heads for bankruptcy falls into, is this idea of we'll just increase the price. Because we're still selling, say, 2-3 million copies of our games. But if we can go from $60 to $70 or $70 to $80,
it'll be so much better.
Yeah, we'll make so much more money. I mean, what happens when you increase the price a little bit more is the sales don't stay at 3 million. And anyone who thinks about this for 2 seconds logically would go, yeah, if you're going to make the price $80, it's kind of makes sense that you're going to sell less copies because not everyone has $80 to hang around. But remember, if you're a suit, right, that lives with his head up in his asshole, $80 is no money, right?
Bro.
This guy is getting millions of dollars a year. $80 is like no money to this guy. Not to mention the fact that he actually believes that his game is irresistible to the players. The players can't help themselves. They must buy these games. Yeah?
You want to talk about somebody who is completely out of touch and that thinks exactly like what you just described? Because a lot of people will be like, okay, nobody is that out of touch. So to give you guys an idea, you want to know the predictions that EA has for their next Battlefield game?
Oh, yeah, yes, please.
They're being very modest about it, you know. They have like modest expectations to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just a measly 100 million players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That easy target, just 100 million. Worse. Yeah. Absolutely. Makes perfect sense to me. Why wouldn't there be 100 million players on the next Battlefield game? I mean, it's not like the last ones didn't do phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, the last one barely got 100 players. So 100 million doesn't seem like that big of a step up. It's just 3 extra zeros. Actually, 6 extra zeros, excuse me. But
oh my God, these people are so crazy.
0 isn't even really a number, so you can just add those on and you'll be good.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I'm not gonna let's just. There's no point, right? These people live with
this one's
and the problem is, and here's why what Huracan just said is so perfect. They think that they want to see 100 million players play the next Battlefield. But they spent over $500 million already on the next Battlefield. That's how much they spent designing it. And
that's a fantastic
idea.
This
is exactly what we're talking about, right? This mindset of more money equals more players. So Andrew Wilson walked away from the failures of Battlefield 2040, whatever, and he thought to himself, the problem is we didn't spend enough.
Our budget wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
We need a bigger budget.
Increase that budget, because if we had only spent 50 million more, we would have had the players here.
That's usually how I go about my videos. It's like, let's say I spent 20 hours working on this really crazy video and it fucking bombs. I'm like, man, if only I'd spent 100 hours on it, it would have been so much better. Same topic, same everything, but just more hours of me working on it would have totally fixed it. Yes, 100%.
Usually if I'm working 10 hours on a video and it bombs, I'm just like, man, I should have spent 5 minutes on this bullshit. This is not worth it. Bye. Sometimes you have dreams.
It's like, listen, it's the idea, for instance, like you look at this piece right here, right, that I've been painting. Look at it. Doesn't it look beautiful?
Yeah.
Right? And you look at this and you're like, hey, that actually looks pretty good. That doesn't look amazing. It's like, you know what that needs? It just needs more colors. If you put the whole fucking rainbow on that grim, dark piece of terrain, it will be so much better, bro.
Yeah.
Just do that. Just put some yellows on there. Put some fucking pinks. It'll be great.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Just throw it into a paint bucket. That should do.
Yeah, exactly.
That should do the trick.
That'll fix everything.
Yeah. Well, anyways, games is dying. AAA gaming is dying. These guys have run out of ideas. They've run out of room, and they seem to just be speed running it towards the end of the road as fast as they can, at least from what I can tell. Speaking of people speed running to the end of their
careers.
Yeah. I have no idea what any of this is, so please tell me what happened here, right? Because it involves our favorite company, Ubisoft.
I mean, this was already mentioned that there was like some serious toxicity in Ubisoft, and there had been like sexual misconduct in Ubisoft.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the usual thing of like people going like, well, allegedly these things happen over at Ubisoft. Well, guess what? Not allegedly anymore. This is being reported by what is this website? Games Industry. Three sexual.
Wow. 3 sexual developers? Is that a new game? What games are Ubisoft working on now?
3 Ubisoft former executives found guilty, okay? This is not allegedly. They were found guilty of sexual and psychological harassment.
Oh.
But they've only been given suspended sentences because people that do really fucked up shit don't really deserve to suffer for
it'll
anything.
Be fine. You know, the women just need to walk it off, really.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
But doesn't kill you makes you stronger, bro.
No, dude, this was a trial which began in June, saw an overwhelming amount of evidence of harassment against Ubisoft employees from the 3 former executives. During the trial, employees described the company's offices in Montreal, Paris as being run with a toxic culture of bullying and sexism. Okay. Francois, former vice president of editorial and creative services, received a 3-year suspended sentence and fined $30,000. That's how much sexual harassment is worth. Wow. 3 years of suspended sentence and $30,000. Bro is probably sitting over there looking pretty, being like, worth it.
Yeah.
Psychological harassment and there was also an attempted sexual assault.
Oh. How much was that worth?
So it's not just section. That was it. Like it was the 3 years of suspended sentence and $30,000 for sexual harassment, psychological harassment, and attempted sexual assault.
Yeah, but here's what pisses me off.
Fantastic.
Here's what pisses me off. It's the rules for thee, but not for me, right? That sort of thing. Yeah. Because if it was you or I in that courtroom, because we're not rich, jail forever, right?
Yeah,
forever
you get the
in
fucking
jail.
chair, bro. You're done. It's over for you. I mean, the longest sentence that you can get in Portugal, I think it's 25 years. We don't really have the death penalty or life sentences.
Yeah.
In here, you get like 25 years. So probably for something like this, might get 25 years. Yeah. But anyways, then we also have former. Is this CCO? I don't know if this is C or G. I think it's CCO.
Just run with it.
Hasquet was found guilty of psychological harassment and complicity in sexual harassment. He was given an 18-month suspended sentence and fined 45,000 euros. Hasquet, who oversaw Ubisoft's editorial team, resigned in July 2020 following a number of accusations. And then finally, former game designer Petru received a 12-month suspended sentence and fined $10,000 for psychological harassment.
I just want to know, what's the point of a suspended sentence? Like the judge goes, you've been very naughty. You're going to jail. But not really.
But not really.
Yeah. I'm so confused.
I don't know enough about the law about suspended sentences.
No, I have no idea.
Like,
if we have lawyers watching,
because
can
it's
you play this? Is this like is the judge playing a psychological game? Like going, and I sentence you to 18 months in prison. And then the guy goes, no, 18 months. I'm too young to be raped. And then the judge goes, but it's suspended. Oh, thank goodness. You know, is that the sort of what is the point of a suspended sentence? Like, why would you give either you go to jail or you don't? Like, you can't be given jail time without doing the time, right?
I'm guessing it's probably like a probation type of thing. So what that means is, hey, if you fuck around, even like if we catch you fucking jaywalking,
Yeah.
you know what jaywalking is?
Yeah, you're not crossing over by the zebra lines.
Yeah. So if you're caught jaywalking, we'll put your ass in jail. I think that's what a suspended sentence is. It's
Maybe.
like, listen, if you're a good boy,
Yeah.
we're not gonna send you over to Tyrone to have some fun on your ass.
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tyrone will
But
not be the one psychologically and sexually harassing you. Personally, in my opinion,
Gonna give you a taste of your own medicine in jail.
I'm sorry.
You're gonna be picking up the soap, motherfucker.
In my opinion, if you're found guilty, right? Not if you're accused. Like, that's just bullshit.
Yeah.
But if you're found guilty of sexual harassment, you deserve to go to jail. End of discussion. That's it, right? Sort of the same view that I have of people who are guilty of grape.
Yeah.
I actually believe that the death penalty should be reserved to people of grape because
if you are
yeah,
I 100% agree with this. By the way, like if you are guilty of graping, yeah, murder them. Yeah, you're dead. It's over, brother.
To me,
it's over for you. You've had your chance, and now it's over. Go die. See ya.
To me,
bye-bye.
Grape is worse than murder. Right?
It needs to be proven beyond any reasonable doubt. That's the 100%. Issue.
Yeah,
that is the issue.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're 100%, we have videotape of you doing shit while the girl's saying no, right? That should be a death penalty because to me, it's worse than murder. Because in murder, the victim doesn't have to live with the consequences of the shit that you had done, right? But with grape, there's a victim that has to live with that for the rest of their lives. Like I have a huge issue with how our legal system is sort of set up around how people get punished for this stuff. But anyways, Ubisoft, well done. You guys definitely
good job.
I don't know why you guys are so desperate to always be in the news.
Living up to the reputation of being one of the scummiest gaming companies ever.
You harass your players every single few months with a new quadruple A video game that you're releasing, and also with your developers.
Technically speaking, they're sexually assaulting their players with how hard they monetize their games all the fucking time. I mean, what do you call the price of something like Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws other than just straight up, anal sex?
No,
Is there another name for what you're doing? $130, you sick fucks? Like, it's sodomy, bro. It's straight up sodomy. You know what you're doing. They just figured, like, since we're sexually assaulting all of our players, maybe it's okay for us to sexually assault everybody at the office as well.
Yeah, why not?
Fucked up,
why not?
Fucked up culture.
But hey, we can always talk about Riot as they embrace sports gambling. Which
you should be the one to talk about this because you actually play their video games.
I do play their video games, but I also watch the esports. Right, I'm a huge fan of the esports.
Oh, so that's even more important than. Oh yes, please give me your angle on this because, like, I don't really watch esports, so I'm kind of like neutral on the whole thing. With the exception, I'm not neutral on the fact that if you are bringing in gambling sponsorships to something that is mostly watched by a younger audience, like that is incredibly fucked up because you are setting up these people to get to be just like absolute gambler degenerates in the future, which is fucking terrible. But
I think the thing is, sports betting on League of Legends is already massive, right? Pretty much every single League of Legends creator is sponsored by some sports betting organization. The sports betting scene is massive and just growing. So from Riot's perspective, they're looking at this going, dude, it's easy money. We may as well. Especially considering the fact that esports isn't playing out the way that they had hoped, right? The idea was that it was going to become like normal sports and we were going to get the same amount of sponsors. We were going to make the same amount of money from sponsorships. Turns out that's not really how you make money on esports. And so I would assume they're just sort of realizing this is sort of where the money is now. Now, a lot of the reasons for why League of Legends isn't making money is a direct result of bad decisions Riot has made with how their seasons are set up. You know, they don't really put the structure. I'm not going to waste you guys, because I could be here for hours talking about everything that's wrong with League of Legends, specifically in the West. But I won't go into that because I know a lot of you don't care about League of Legends. But all of that, what you need to understand is there's major structural issues within how League of Legends and Riot's esports division is run. And that has allowed or led to a case where it's not making money. In fact, it's losing money. And so
wait, considering that Riot probably has the biggest esports scene, I would imagine, right? Because I don't follow esports, but Riot would have the biggest one. I imagine that the second biggest one was probably the Overwatch League, but that's like in fucking shambles since forever. So wait, what about CSGO and Dota?
CSGO is massive.
Those are probably...
Dota is massive, but
those are probably in there as well.
Because they're run differently, right? So the CSGO one is done by going to these venues and playing in front of live crowds. So they put up these huge events. They're making good money. Riot is the only one that sort of wanted to do it very differently. Like they have this studio in Germany, for example, where all the teams live in Germany and they play in this small little tiny studio where, you know, that sort of, they wanted to be official with their sporting events rather than put up these live shows where they travel across Europe to these different countries and play in front of live crowds. Riot wanted to do something completely different, and that didn't pan out the way that they had hoped. So
of course not, because that's fucking stupid.
Yep.
I thought League of Legends was doing like, you know, actual.
No,
because again, I don't follow it, but I figured it would be the same thing as like CS:GO and
no. They started doing it now, right? Where they're starting to put up these live shows where it's actually quite cool. This last split that they had it in Europe, they actually gave KC, which is the French team, as well as MCOI, which is the Spanish team. They gave these two teams a full weekend where these teams could rent out an entire venue, sell sponsorships, have sponsors be at this, so make it like a full-blown convention almost for like a weekend where fans go, and it was packed. Right, so these venues were jam-packed. It was actually a really good show both weekends that they did it. So they are starting to experiment with that. But just long story short, I get why they're getting the sports betting guys in. They have to make money, and these guys are willing to sponsor. Because a lot of the other companies that were there, like you had Kia sponsoring this, right? And you're like, dude, come on.
That's the car company, right?
Gamers
makes perfect sense.
Buying cars, sure. This makes sense, right? So fundamentally,
especially a Kia, aren't those like for families and shit?
Yeah, it's like a family car. Like, that doesn't make any sense, but you know, so it kind of makes sense. But I am with you there. I feel like there's a lot of young people that play League of Legends. This is not good, right? Kids should not be introduced to sports betting, because it is highly addictive. Right? And of course, the younger you can grab them, the better
it's not even. It's not even just highly addictive. It is. There's something very fucked up that it messes with your brain, particularly if you get like any winnings at all. Like for instance, during that height of like the GameStop share thing, I was like, bro, I should learn how to trade in stocks. So I put like a very small sum, like $1,500. I was like, okay, I'm gonna use these $1,500 to learn how to do stocks, and I lost everything.
Yeah,
okay, I lost all of it.
Well done.
But it was like for a while there was like this high because I was like, oh shit, it's going up. Oh my god! And you're looking at the fucking tickers and shit, and it's just like going up. Oh my god! Oh, this is so good. I was up for a while. I was up. I was on like 3K or something like that.
Oh, yeah?
For a while.
Nice.
And then it's just like,
yeah.
It just like came crash. Like it was out of nowhere. It was the big crash on the GME because like for a while it was like super high. And then it's like, boom. That's when I was like up. I was like really up. I was like, holy shit, this is good.
You should have
and then
sold.
suddenly it was like, boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have.
But that's
I
the big
should have.
problem, right?
But it
No
was. But it was. The thing is, it was going up. It was going up.
Well, that's the thing.
But it's like, bro, I can only imagine how much money people actually lost in that. Because I was like, I look at my savings. I'm like, okay, listen, 1,500 is significant enough that I will force myself to learn it, but it's not going to financially ruin me.
Yeah.
So it was a learning experience. Like, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Dude.
Yeah.
What you want to know? What I learned about stock trading is that it's basically there was this influencer who said this every time that he went live. World's largest casino is about to open, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's the world's largest casino, bro.
I think
like,
that is true. Although the way I play stocks, I don't play stocks, right?
Yeah, it's different. You play long. You play long.
I buy into stocks
different.
that I know I'm going to keep for the next 10 years, 20 years. So I don't even look at my stock portfolio, how it's doing, how it's not doing. I don't care, because the companies I'm investing in are companies that I believe have future options and future utility. And so, there's a difference there. But the problem is exactly that, right? The high that people experience is what they get addicted to.
Yeah.
And if you can get them young, it's easier to get children addicted to gambling than what it is to get adults addicted to gambling. So they want to get those children as quick as possible. I can't see this happening without the world's governments going, because, these events aren't showcased with age restrictions. It's on YouTube, bro. Like, you can watch the live streams on YouTube. There's almost definitely going to be some questions about this, unless, of course, they don't actually mention the gambling. So they just mention the name of the sponsor, and it sort of leaves it up to older people to know who they're talking about. That could probably happen, because they do this in the UA.
No, dude, it's like you're going to be like, oh yeah, sponsored by, I don't know, is it DraftKings or whatever the fuck it is?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we're sponsored by DraftKings, and that's like, somehow that's fine. It's like imagine me saying, oh yeah, I'm sponsored by the crack dealer down the street, but that's fine. He's just a crack dealer down the street, okay?
Well, we
don't talk about what he does.
If you're just saying
crack dealer down the street.
If you're just saying brought to you by DraftKings, some people wouldn't know. So, for example, I'll give you a great example of this. In the US, right, their analyst desk is sponsored by State Farm. I'm still not sure what State Farm does. Like, they always say, over to the analyst desk, brought to you by State Farm. I don't know what the hell State Farm does. I just know they sponsor the analyst desk on the LCS.
They probably do GMO fruits or some bullshit like that.
I think it's something with insurance.
State Farm.
I think it's something with insurance.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Why would it be called a farm if it has to do with this? So weird.
Don't ask me. I think it's something with insurance, because I once, while streaming, I asked chat, dude, what does State Farm do? And someone said something about one of the things they do is insurance, and I was like, oh. Okay, I don't know. So maybe it's something like that, where they're just going to put the name in there and they're not actually going to say what they're doing or how they're doing it. I don't know, right? But fundamentally, it is a little sus. I don't want children to be exposed to things like gambling. I feel like that's just a bridge too far. And then we open the floor.
Agreed.
To Rurikon. Because every single week, he desperately wants to shoehorn in some conversations about Monster Hunter and Nightreign.
I'm not trying to shoehorn these conversations. These games have just been getting consistently updated. Like, every single time I've brought them up, there's been an update. So, for instance,
it's such a coincidence that every week there's a new update for your video games, and my video games don't get updates ever.
Isn't this a good thing? I think that this is an absolute
why are
win,
my games
bro.
not getting updates? Like, what the hell?
Sounds like you're playing the wrong games, brother. So, we talked about Monster Hunter Wilds getting a title update 2. Yeah. It got title update 2. When was it exactly? I don't know. I've been playing it like so relentlessly. I think it was this Monday.
Okay.
This Monday it got title update 2. Title update 2 brought with it 2 monsters, a returning monster, which is like Yakris, which they made such a good fight, bro. Like, imagine this, right? You're chasing this creature who is the Lord of the Seas, okay? and you're chasing him down. He's going through a water section in the Scarlet Forest, and you're chasing him down. Eventually comes out. You fight him for a little bit. They made a new area within this map specifically for this boss.
Okay.
So after you fight him for a little bit, he goes over to what you would call its nest, which is that area, which is surrounded by water. And then eventually, you fight him some more, and then he jumps into the water. And you get a warning saying like, oh, he's charging up a really powerful attack. You have to jump in as well. So you jump into the water.
Yeah.
And you actually have like this little mini combat section inside the water. This is a reference because the first time that this monster ever came into existence was in Monster Hunter Tri, which that game featured full-fledged water combat, which was very divisive. Not everybody liked it. It was kind of like dependent. Maybe you have a good weapon for water combat. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So the people that had good weapons for water combat was
enjoyed
good.
it.
For the people whose weapons didn't work out, it was bad. So
of course.
but what they did here is something different. So they have like these stone segments that you can kind of like use a grappling hook to pull, and they fall on top of the monster. That deals damage. And then you can also use a grappling hook to grapple onto the monster when he's not attacking. And then you can do like an attack with your weapon on the monster. And it's a really cool segment. Then eventually he jumps out of water and you keep fighting him, and then you kill him. So that was monster number one.
Cool.
Lagiacrus, really, really cool. Also brings with him new armor, which has like this new thing that deals thunder damage, and new weapon that also deals ton of thunder damage. So he's basically become like, oh, my shit deals a ton of thunder damage. So monsters that are weak to thunder, you use my weapons, they're going to be real good. Then the other one is Seregios, who is also known as Steve, which is hilarious because a lot of people still don't know why he's called Steve. But basically, at one point when this monster was getting introduced in Monster Hunter 4, people were asking, oh, what's his name? Because nobody knew. It was just like a little bit teased. And one of the community managers said, for now, let's just call him Steve. And the Monster Hunter community made sure that they never forgot, because now everybody just calls him Steve. Even though his name is Seregios, we just call him Steve. He's Steve forever now. But so Steve is like this pine cone looking monster, shoots like blades, bleeds you. He's super fast and whatnot. Also a really cool fight. So 2 new monsters. There you also have like the more challenging versions of them for people that wanted harder challenges, like myself. So that increases the difficulty significantly. They've added more layered options, so you can now layer weapons and shit like that. And there's like tons of really good stuff to go do in Monster Hunter Wilds right now. So that was really cool. Still playing that nonstop, super addicted. Then Nightreign did their 3rd hard mode boss, which went live, I think, Wednesday night. So 2 days ago it went live, which is like a really cool fight as well. They basically made a hard mode version of another one of the bosses, and I think that one's going to be the final one for now, but they're going to eventually do hard modes of all of the bosses because people really enjoyed it. People go back and they play the game again, so that's cool. It's just these 2 games have been doing fucking phenomenally for me. Although Monster Hunter Wilds still overwhelmingly negative on Steam because of performance issues.
I hope they can sort out the performance issues, because I think it really is hampering. And you can imagine if you're a developer working on Monster Hunter, right? How sort of demotivating it is, right? To know you're pouring your heart into this, you're desperately trying to make this game great, but it's sitting at negative and people are super unhappy. And every single time I hear the Monster community talk, it is so much fighting. Like, so many people hate it. So many people are so angry.
Like, listen, Bellular made 2 videos about it.
Oh, yeah?
Bellular made 2 videos about Monster Hunter Wilds.
That should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Yeah. But they did improve performance a little bit. I did a poll on my stream because I don't have these performance issues on my system. The 7900 XTX runs it fine. I did test on the Intel B580, which is the latest card from Intel, which is very much a consumer-friendly card. It's like $300 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was running better than it was before.
Okay.
Still not great, but it was running better. So it's trending to a better place at least. They've done something where the game no longer uses as much VRAM. They fixed the shader caching issue and all of that. So it's better, but it's still not there. And I feel like until they completely fix that, it's always going to be an overwhelmingly negative. It is what it is.
I'm hopeful, then, right? Let's say the least. I'm hopeful.
I hope they can fix it as well.
Yeah, that they can fix it and hopefully bring some sort of normalcy to the game. Because I'm sure a lot of Monster Hunter fans would like to just get back to enjoying their game.
Yes.
Without the nonsense.
Yes, we would.
You know, yeah. And then, of course, the Nightreign stuff. I'm super happy for Miyazaki and the team that the game is working out the way that they hoped and the people are loving it. And, of course, some people are going to hate it. But that's just, I think, because most people had in their heads this idea of what the game was going to be.
It's the next Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It's the next Elden Ring.
And
it was like,
when it wasn't that, people were just angry. And that is sort of a thing that you're always going to get, right? Whenever a studio tries to do something new, sort of outside the scope of what they're known for, they're always going to get this sort of, well, we wanted this. And you didn't bring us this, so how dare you? So, but hopefully it's still a good experience. Hey, I'm happy for all of you for the experiences that you had. And I'm happy for all of you for joining us on this week's episode of the Mythic Banter. We're actually super early today because usually we go on for another hour. But hey, it's the end of the show.
But besides the Xbox situation, it's been pretty much a light week.
Yeah, actually, this is the first time we have 5, 6 actual topics on the list. Usually it's like 9, 10, and then just more topics as we go that sort of reveals itself. But Rurikon, as always, thank you so much for joining us here. And to all of you, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this beautiful Saturday evening or Friday evening, if you remember. One last little bit of a, hey guys, give us some cash, in there for all of you. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other. And we will see all of you in the next one. Peace.